Hi, Rick Rafters here from the Wedderburn Lions Club, and we'd just like to give our community and other interested parties an update on where we're at with seeking an aged care facility for Wedderburn. So we recently did a presentation to the Inglewood District Health Service, and that has given us a degree of hope. They've agreed to include the feasibility of a Wedderburn aged care facility in their strategic view coming up. So as part of the work that we have been doing now, we've become aware of a number of facilities in New South Wales that are run on a community basis, by the community. They're run as not-for-profits. And we identified Bundarra in northeastern New South Wales, Moolameen in New South Wales, 70 kilometres northeast of Swan Hill, Balranald in New South Wales, 100 kilometres north of Swan Hill, and Barham, 26 kilometres northeast of Kerrang. Bundarra is right up in the northeast of New South Wales near Glen Innes and Inverell, and it originally came to our attention in the book Rusted Off by Gabrielle Chan. And in her book she argues that rural Australia is being left behind in favour of the votes available in the metropolitan area by politicians, and she uses Bundarra as an example of a community that fought back. And then secondly, the ABC did a story on the Bundarra aged care facility. The spread of the spread of this story of the aged care facility was far and wide, and so it was time, we thought, to go and have a look and see how they went about achieving the provision of facility in their town and maintaining it. So in the book Rusted Off, Gabrielle Chan makes mention, and I quote from the book here, "Or consider the other end of life's trajectory, aged care. People who have lived their lives in a small community usually want to stay in place. So often these communities are told that certain services are just not economic. Small nursing homes are just not viable. Governments and businesses like to consolidate, rationalise, but disregards completely, the social dislocation caused by removing people from the support of their local community. The dislocated nursing home resident is removed from the former neighbour who drops in with a cake, or the adult child with an old friend stopping by for a cup of tea. But in Bundarra in northern New South Wales, a town of 400 people and about 600 in the outlying areas, an aged care facility was deemed uneconomic by the service provider because it only had 10 beds. Community mounted a fierce fight to save it with the help of the then local MP Tony Windsor, and the facility remains making a profit and keeping aged people in place. So very, very salient comments there from Gabrielle Chan in that book, which is very well worthwhile read. So the ABC's report that was done, of course, the video, so we'll just have a little look at that now.
Big facilities, people can get lost and overlooked, whereas here nobody gets overlooked. The care is really personalised to a much greater intensity than is possible in a bigger facility. There's a pride in what people do, that it's a reflection on their community, that this facility is here in a little tiny town of 200 people, that we can maintain that and have the majority of the staff from local. I think it's a great achievement. I would like to think that we remain viable, able to both have staff from the local area and fill our beds with people from the local area and have that ongoing support from the community. So more of the same.
Okay, so the Grace Munro Centre is at Bundarra, and Jude Raftis and myself, my wife, and I travelled to Bundarra, and we interviewed Penny Abington, the registered nurse and the manager of the Grace Munro Centre, on the 19th of September. So we recorded the interview, and we've had it transcribed so that we have a record of what was said. In 2002 to 3, the part of the aged care facility the new part was built, and prior to that it was the hospital. Then Bundarra became more of a respite home and was run by New South Wales Health. But they deemed it not to be working very well, so they offered it to the building to the Uralla Shire, possibly for $1, not 100% sure on that. It then became an 11-bed facility and was tendered out to a healthcare provider, which was Maclean Health, which is a large not-for-profit organisation operating in Inverell. And it was run as a low-care hostel, which of course doesn't exist anymore because there's no distinction between high care and low care now. In 2009, Maclean decided to get rid of the Grace Munro as they thought it was costing too much. So in 2009, the deputy CAO of Maclean left there, and it was through her and her political contacts and a determination with the community that she got Tony Windsor involved, who was an independent MP at the time. And obviously independent MPs can have a bit of pull when there's a tight parliament. So there was a significant amount of money raised by the community in donations. Total's not certain now. Lions were involved at the time and have since built the veranda on the centre also. As a result, the Grace Munro Centre was granted status as an aged care facility on an ongoing basis. It's structured as a limited company with a volunteer board of management and has made a profit every year since it has been under the current structure. For staffing, which is always an interesting aspect, Penny's a registered nurse and she manages the facility. She's on 24-hour call and lives 100 kilometres away from the facility. She works part-time hours in attendance. Then there's M, who has a Certificate 4 in aged care and is the second in charge. And all the other staff have their Certificate 3s in aged care, even the kitchen staff and cleaners, so they are qualified to assist with other duties if necessary. So some of the Certificate 3 trained staff are actually paid as Certificate 4 because of that cross-purpose and being able to do both types of work. The staff are all casual or permanent part-time, but not all casuals get the amount of shifts that they would like. They're only put on where it's required. Then, interestingly enough, no one's on the floor at night. They have a sleepover person who responds to emergency buzzers from patients or the residents in the home, and calls the nurse or the ambulance if necessary. And obviously Penny's on call to answer those questions, any questions, and provide direction if necessary too. And the board itself is 100% voluntary that runs the Grace Munro Centre. Staff ratios are a hot topic at the moment, particularly with the Royal Commission into aged care. And we felt that Penny made some very interesting points about staff ratios. And she said basically that you can't allocate staff based on numbers, but on needs. So the ADLs, or the assessed daily living requirements, determines the amount of time to be spent with each patient or resident. For example, someone who's reasonably independent doesn't need help to dress or to shower or to feed themselves. But somebody who is not necessarily dependent might need a lot of assistance and obviously a lot more staff. So Grace Munro Centre has specialists that come in to prepare reports for the patients, as this is on the basis upon which they get paid by the government for the care that's offered. So Penny considers the provision of services is a lot more important than staff numbers. It's about having the staff to do the work. There seems to be a feeling among community providers that profit providers are possibly overmanaged and consequently overexpensed, and this is where a lot of the expense of aged care is coming in now. And if that's not addressed, if we do have a broken model, if we don't get a model, then aged care, which should be the right of everyone, becomes available only to the elite and to those that can afford it, which is obviously not appropriate. All aged care facilities now, of course, require accreditation, and they have to have high standards. They are all audited by the government, and Grace Munro was first accredited in 2011. Then in 2014, at their second accreditation inspection, they got 44 ticks and a couple of recommendations, but no failures in the facility at all. Then they were further accredited on the 24th of May 17, and they got all 44 of the 44 expected outcomes and are now accredited till the 12th of August 2020, and that link there will give you an indication as to the accreditation levels of the centre. So the financial information from the facility has been provided for us, and if you want to go through and have a look at those figures, I'm not going to read them all out. Just simply pause the video and have a look at them. But the most important thing there is that that they are making a surplus. But that surplus, of course, includes $85,000 in donations in that particular year. It's worth pointing out that the company that runs the facility is a registered charity with the Australian Not-for-Profits and Charities Commission, and it also has deductible gift recipient status, so that any donations that are made to the facility are tax deductible to the donors. So once again, for more financial information, and it's been limited because of the size of the slide here, but as I said, they were started in 2009, but by 2012 they'd accumulated 178,000 in retained earnings, and they are the surpluses that they have made every year since, and how much cash that they have at the bank as at the 30th of June 19. Quite an achievement, and they certainly, the board and the staff, are all to be commended for being able to achieve that and make the facility quite sustainable. This is just a couple of photos here. The top left one is the veranda that was built by Lions. The second one to the right is one of the residents' rooms. They are quite large and spacious, very, very impressive indeed. The next one, just a photo of myself and Jude and Penny after our meeting there. Then we go down below and they've got some veggie gardens outside, and one of the residents having a cake, and then Santa for Christmas, just to give some indication as to the types of things that go on there. But it's just a very welcoming and lovely place. So as a result of our visit there, a number of recommendations have been put to the Lions Club. These will go forward at the next business meeting for decision. So at this stage they are only recommendations. One of the things that is recommended is to put a sign up on the land up near the old primary school community centre to promote awareness, discussion and some positivity about the project to get an aged care facility for Wedderburn, and put the Lions logo on there and some contact details if people want some more information, like the Facebook page or the secretary's number at Lions. Other recommendations are that we keep promoting the Facebook page, add as much information as possible about aged care and its importance to the community. We possibly might start seeking pledges, not donations, but pledges from the community towards the building of the facility. We want to maintain a very strong strategic relationship and partnership with the Inglewood District Health Service Board with regard to consultation on their planned review. We want to collect more stories from people about the impact of ageing in a community such as Wedderburn with no aged care facility. We think it's important also to establish a working relationship with Wendy Gladman, who's the Director of Community Wellbeing, at the Loddon Shire, because the Shire provides a lot of home care services, and obviously the aged care facility would be the next step for people who can no longer look after themselves. So we think that the Shire could have valuable input. We think we should make contact and visit the other facilities that have community-run operations and find out how they actually do them and if there are any others. And we're also aware that Malakuta in Victoria are also trying to get a facility, and we want to catch up with them and find out where they're at and any of the lessons that they've learnt from going down the path as well. And obviously we want to maintain a good relationship with Grace Munro, and they have offered to provide us with any assistance that we might need, which has been just fantastic. It was certainly a great trip and worthwhile going up and seeing them. So they're the recommendations that will be voted on and discussed, and there may be more that will come out of the next Lions business meeting in November 2019. And finally, never give up. And don't take no for an answer, and we certainly don't intend to. You know, mountains can't be surmounted except by winding paths, so it can be a long way around, and it's been a bit of a long, hard road so far. But we won't give up, and we firmly believe that we have a moral, a social, and an ethical obligation to provide for our aged, and please let us never forget that. Thank you very much for your time. If you need any more information, contact the Lions Club at Wedderburn.
So if you're walking down the street sometime, spot some hollow ancient eyes, please don't just pass them by and stare.